This is the place where the magic of Disney meets the magic of the real world through wellness and spirituality. I'm your host, Kitty Packman, and this is Spiritually Ever After.
Hello and welcome to this special episode of They Assume We Know Nothing crossover with Spiritually Ever After. So I am your host, Kitty Packman. If you're new here or if you only listen to one of the podcasts and not the other one, I co-host They Assume We Know Nothing with Kate Apple, and we deep dive into all things Taylor Swift. We do a lyrical analysis. We're going through all of her albums, currently in Fearless, making our way through. And we just talk all things Taylor and get really nice and deep. And on Spiritually Ever After, that is the podcast that I host by myself. And that is, we look into Disney crossover with wellness and spirituality. And again, kind of just looking at the deep depths of, being a deep girl Disney, as I like to say. And so, this episode, and Kate doesn't know what I'm doing, so she's probably going to want to respond and share her thoughts. So maybe she'll create another episode or share on social media. And we really want to hear your thoughts as always, but especially on this one, I'm so curious to hear your thoughts. So this crossover is going to look at Taylor Swift songs that remind me or give me Disney vibes. And what I'll say is that my list, I was very lenient intentionally, that way I could kind of like have a lot to talk about here and get your thoughts on and maybe even make some people unhappy with some of the things I say. And they're like, where did you get that from? But yeah, I feel like some of them might be a stretch, but I want to hear, and I want to hear which ones I forgot because I know inevitably there are ones that I didn't think of or didn't realize. And so, Kate, I'm going to want to hear your thoughts, and everyone else, I'm going to want to hear your thoughts. And I'm going to look at my phone through this so that I make sure I don't forget any of them. I normally try not to use my notes, but this one I want to make sure that I know what I'm saying. So, okay. So, and I tried to lump them as what movie or character they remind me of. So there's like multiple songs for some movies. So, for example, for Peter Pan, I mean, obviously Peter, like duh, it's in the name. Cardigan, and then Never Grow Up. So Peter, again, like I just said, it's that's what the whole song is about. I mean, it's about her life, but like it's about this idea of, her being kind of like Wendy and no longer waiting by the window for him. And, he's not going to grow up, which is kind of where the Never Grow Up comes in. But Cardigan, a lot of people think is kind of like the precursor to Peter. And I have so many thoughts on this, but I'm not going to share all of them here because I do not have the time and we are just getting started. And I do not want to go on any tangents or try not to. But in Cardigan, right, tried to change the ending, Peter losing Wendy. So there's those references there. And then, in Peter, that's her saying, like, the girl who sits by the window has turned out the light. And then Never Grow Up. So obviously, Never Grow Up has a lot of other meanings. A lot of people I know now, a lot of people my age are having children and starting to use it with their kids as they're growing up. And Taylor put Never Grow Up on, it came out on Speak Now, and it was when she was really coming into her own as like really being famous and like moving to New York and all these things, or at least that's what that's the image you get in this song. So there's a lot of different meanings, but I think when you think about this concept of never growing up, you think about Peter Pan, right? And, the Lost Boys. And so for Peter Pan, I have Peter, Cardigan, and Never Grow Up. For Alice in Wonderland, I have Wonderland, obviously, but I also have Mad Woman. So Wonderland is one of my absolute favorites. I love this song so much. And I really like, if you have Spotify, the like looping image that plays when you watch Wonderland. I don't know if you watch the original, like if you listen to the original, stolen version, if you will. But I know that Taylor's version of Wonderland has this like really cute little loop where it like looks like you're going down a rabbit hole. So if you haven't seen that and you have Spotify, go look at that. But I love that. And obviously this song is, I mean, it's in the name. It's directly, again, like Peter, it's literally in the name. And it's just as fun. It makes a lot of like fun references to the movie and to the books, I guess, about going mad and all these things, which is where for me, I also bring in Mad Woman. So people are probably going to be like, what? Like, Mad Woman is about being an angry woman. And it is, but it's also about being a mad, like crazy woman or being labeled that way, if you will. And who gets labeled that way. And so go listen to that song again if you have not ever listened from that lens. And that's why I put it here because I think, in a way, and this is one of the reasons I really love Alice in Wonderland, is I feel like, in a way, Mad Woman is kind of like this embracing of the crazy woman, mad woman, she's too crazy, like stereotype, you know what I mean? And I feel like Alice definitely has that. Like, she's just kind of like totally willing to be her weird self and like speak in all of these like weird little like riddles, and I love it so much. So for Alice in Wonderland, I have Wonderland and Mad Woman. For Cinderella, and this is one I feel like I might have forgotten someone, so let me know if I forgot a song, but I have Bejeweled, Enchanted, and White Horse. So Bejeweled, obviously we have the music video that makes reference to it. And it just feels like that. Like, it just feels like, like she's shining, And I think that's kind of similar to why I have Enchanted here also for Cinderella. It's kind of like this night is sparkling, like that whole idea of it, and just like the way it feels and it sounds and the way she's been performing it. I mean, she literally even just did it in a blue dress, which again, we're not going to get started on. Oh my goodness, these recent shows in Miami and all of the changes. It's just, she is just playing with all of us. But it definitely, Enchanted gives me a little bit of that Cinderella vibe. And then obviously White Horse, I think, or at least that's obvious to me. This whole idea of, I'm not a princess, this ain't a fairy tale, and it's too late for you and your white horse to come around. It's kind of like, at least to me, that always gives Cinderella. I guess it kind of could give other princess vibes as well. But for me, it gives that, like, Cinderella's been through a lot and it like has had a rough life. And it's like, it's too late for you to come around. So for Cinderella, I have Bejeweled, Enchanted, and White Horse. For Long Live, because of the dragons, I have like Maleficent, Sleeping Beauty vibes, and it's pretty much just for the dragons. So again, a little bit of a stretch, but curious to hear your thoughts. Okay, so for I did something bad, like all the female villains vibes, and like especially the witches, right? With the whole like they're burning all the witches even if they aren't one. So I said the evil queen, Maleficent, Mother Gothel, Ursula, the witch from Merida, who may or may not be Boo. If you've never heard that theory, go dive down that rabbit hole now. There's this whole theory that, I mean, if you've never heard of this, there's the whole theory that the Pixar universe is all connected. And so all of the Pixar movies exist in one universe, and that Boo from Monsters Inc. might actually be the like old witch in Brave. So just saying, I said from Merida before, but from Brave. Okay, so I always literally just call that movie Merida because I just think of Merida, like she's so cool. Okay, this one I know is a stretch, so I'm very curious to hear everyone's thoughts. But I feel like the man just gives me Mulan vibes. Like, not even that Mulan was really trying to, and I don't think Taylor was trying to like take on this persona of being like, the man, if you will. But yeah, just the whole idea, right, of like wondering if I'd get there quicker if I was a man. Like, would it be easier for Mulan if she was a man? She didn't have to pretend to be a man and, fight for her father. So again, I know that one's a stretch. Curious to hear your thoughts, but I said the man for Mulan. All right. So this one again, I know is a stretch, but I know that recently there's been like more of a focus on The Huntsman with Snow White, and they came out with that movie. I did not personally see it, but I feel like that just kind of gives me the Archer, like just that imagery of the hunter and being hunted, and just that kind of like who could stay, you could stay, like just kind of like letting her go. At least that's what I understand with the huntsman, is like he tried to kill her and then was like, I feel too bad, I'm just gonna let her go off. So that's why I put the Archer with Snow White and the Huntsman. But again, let me know your thoughts. If you don't follow us on Instagram, we are They Assume We Know Nothing Pod, and on Instagram for Spiritually Ever After, it's I think it's spiritually underscore ever after on Instagram. And then on TikTok, it's they assume we know nothing or spiritually ever after. So follow us and send us a message or create a post or a reel and let us know your thoughts if you're like, this is crazy. That does not have anything to do with that. Or maybe it does remind you of it. And I'm realizing I have a surprise that I forgot to tell you. So maybe I'll wait till the end. Nope, I'm going to forget. So I'm going to say it now just in case. In the show notes, we're going to include a link to a Spotify playlist that I made of all of these songs. So if you want your Taylor Disney vibes, you've got them. It's in Spotify. You can go listen. If you don't know, I love my Spotify playlists or just my playlists in general. It's kind of like one of my main love languages is like curating the vibe through music. And that is what I've done for you here. So I've taken all these songs and put them in a playlist. So go listen to that. That link is going to be in the show notes for you. Okay, next on my list for Toy Story, I have Cowboy Like Me and It's Nice to Have a Friend. And hear me out on both of these. So Cowboy Like Me, I actually get Jesse and Buzz vibes. Obviously, we know Jesse and Woody are not a couple. Jesse and Buzz have a thing. I think in future ones, they're like a full-on couple. Don't hate me. I'm going to admit right now, I have not seen Toy Story 4. So I need to do that. I'm going to do that, I promise. But Cowboy Like Me just gives me kind of like Jesse and Buzz vibes, which is kind of fun. And Cowboy Like Me is just such a good song. So if you have not spent time listening to that song, go listen to it. It is so good. And then It's Nice to Have a Friend kind of gives me You've Got a Friend in Me vibes. I don't love that song. It's kind of like sad to me. But anyway, it gives me Toy Story vibes. So It's Nice to Have a Friend and Cowboy Like Me are Toy Story. All right. Again, a little bit of a stretch, but I also think it does give me the vibe of this movie. So let me know your thoughts. For Up, one of the greatest, I think, Disney romance stories that we have. I have Invisible String and Mastermind. And I think both just kind of speak to how we see their whole story play out in 8-minute intro and literally the whole entire story play out, which is so sad. It makes me cry every time. I cry thinking about it. But I think both of these songs, Invisible String and Mastermind, kind of speak to that, like, it's all worked out the way that it needed to from the start. And like, it was always planned this way. It was always going to work out. And so that's the feeling I get from Carl and Ellie. Like, they were destined to meet when they were little. They had these perfectly like parallel kind of interests that it just sort of worked. And yeah, they were meant to be together and really, really cute. I need to watch that movie. Actually, it's been a little while since I watched that, so I need to watch that movie again soon. All right. This one I know is also a little bit of a stretch, so I'm curious to hear your thoughts. So this song always makes me think of this specific character. And I know I think I posted, yes, I think I posted a Instagram reel and a TikTok of this. But vigilante shit always makes me think of Marie from Aristocats. And as I say that, I'm looking, I have my beautiful Marie cookie jar. It's so cute. I got that for Christmas from my mom last year. But I love Marie from Aristocats. She has such like brat energy, honestly. And so she gives me such vigilante shit and I love it. I just think that's so good for Marie. So for Marie from Aristocats, it's vigilante shit. This one, again, I know is a little bit of a stretch, a little bit, we'll see what everyone thinks, but Down Bad like kind of gives me Lilo and Stitch because it's obviously like cosmic alien. He's obviously an alien experiment, if you will. He's not even a real alien. Sorry, Stitch, but like he's a made experiment. But like just the idea that obviously they're not romantic love partners, but the idea that like Stitch and Lilo together created something that she had never experienced before. And then it was going to be taken from her. And like just that, like, I think also one of my favorite moments in the movie is when Lilo is just like laying on the floor and is like, I think she says, like, leave me here to die or something like that. And she's just down bad, like truly down bad. So down bad for Lilo and Stitch. I kind of love, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts if you think that's crazy. All right. This one is an obvious one. This is from Tortured Poets. We have But Daddy, I Love Him, The Little Mermaid, obviously. I mean, it's literally a line from the movie, right? Ariel says, But Daddy, I love him. But I think also just the vibe of this song, the whole idea of the song, and that's why she named it that and included this as the lyric. Um, but it's just kind of like, I'm going to do what I want. I don't care what people think. I don't care what daddy thinks. I don't care. I'm going to do what I want and kind of having some fun with it. And I think that's also very Ariel is like, the whole controversy when this song came out was, and one of me and Kate's great regrets on this podcast is that we did not video record ourselves listening to our first thoughts. And so a lot of people got great video of them hearing her for the first time say, I'm having his baby. No, I'm not. But I think that is very Ariel also, like just that idea of kind of like playing with you and like toying around. Yeah. So, but Daddy, I love him, Little Mermaid. All right. This one just kind of reminds me of all of the princesses. And this is as we're getting towards the end of the list, you're going to see more of just kind of like all of the this, all of the that. But Today Was a Fairy Tale. I think it's such a classic song. It's like definitely not one of my favorite Taylors or one that I listen to that often. But when it comes on, I'm like, oh, I remember. And I remember that like time. Like it was an easier time. Life was easier when that song came out. Like Ed Sheeran, like it just was, it's cute. Um, so Today Was a Fairy Tale, all princesses. Um, Also for all princesses, but specifically Merida and Ariel. I mean, this is one of my favorite Taylor songs of all time. You're on Your Own, Kid. So I think again, this is for all princesses. This is for all protagonists, but especially all female protagonists. Um, but specifically, I think Merida and Ariel have this like you can tell they're on their own, and Elsa a little bit as well, which leads me into I also have Elsa for I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. I think not that she has a broken heart in the romantic sense or the traditional sense, and yet I think that poor Elsa has had a really rough life, and that it very much is that she's grieving and has this broken heart. And so she has to just do it anyway. She has to get up there, she has to get coronated, she has to become queen. And then obviously she chooses again, if you will, and sings Let It Go. But I definitely get I Could Do It With a Broken Heart vibes for Elsa. And then Who's Afraid of Little Old Me? I also get all princesses as well as all female villains, all female protagonists, just all women everywhere. And I'm sure, other men as well as people who are non-binary and, just a lot of people can relate to this in general. But Who's Afraid of Little Old Me, especially for these women in these movies who are, going up against some sort of challenge, having to grow and often go through kind of like an ego death and lose who they used to be in order to become who they're becoming, who they need to be. And it just is always, it's always a challenging journey, right? And that's where I think this song can really be for any of the princesses, the protagonists, or as well as for the villains, is that experience of, who's afraid of little old me? Well, you should be. You should be. All right. And then last but certainly not least, I have two songs here that just kind of remind me of Walt Disney World, Disneyland, like Disney people. One of them is pretty obvious. It's Florida, like, of course. And especially now that she's just played it at all the Miami shows, like, oh, of course. But I was lucky enough to go to Florida twice this summer, and it just like, just it that is like the song of the place now. Like it sounds so cliche because it's also the name of it. And she says it over and over again and literally with exclamation points, but it just is like the right vibration for that place at this point. And just the idea, right, of I need to forget to take me to Florida is so perfect with Disney because so many people go there to just like escape the real world and live out this fantasy. And that brings me to my last song that reminds me also of Walt Disney World and just kind of like Disney adults like me and Kate, and hopefully all of you, if you're listening to this. I Hate It Here. I think that this song got so much flack, but it's that it speaks to that same sentiment of kind of just being discontent with your life and having these escapes. And that's Disney for a lot of us. That's Taylor for a lot of us as well. And so I am super excited to have been able to do this episode that really crosses over these two loves of my life. And I know there's a lot of people that love both. And so I am very curious to hear your thoughts. Which ones did I forget? Which ones were way too much of a stretch? And what do you think about the playlist? So make sure you go listen to that. And make sure you go follow both if you are not following They Assume We Know Nothing, as well as Spiritually Ever After on social media. Again, on Instagram, it's They Assume We Know Nothing pod and spiritually_ever after. And then on TikTok, it's They Assume We Know Nothing and Spiritually Ever After. And we always want to hear what you want to see and hear next on here. Again, whether it's They Assume We Know Nothing or Spiritually Ever After or both. You can also find me on Instagram, Kitty Packman, KITTYPACKMAN. I am so happy that you've been here. If you enjoyed this, go leave a review for They Assume We Know Nothing, Spiritually Ever After, or both. And make sure you leave where you are joining us from. We would love to hear where you're joining from around the world. I know we're in both podcasts are in a bunch of different countries all around the world, which is so, so cool. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And we will see you real soon.
Thank you for being here and listening. If you loved it, leave a review and/or share and tag me. I would love to connect with you. I'm spiritually_ever after on Instagram and spiritually ever after on TikTok. See you real soon.